Hello everyone, Matthew with Crescent here. We're currently taking a look at a 1995-1996 Fleer Ultra Scoring Kings insert hot pack with Michael Jordan. These cards came in 1 in every 72 packs, almost 1 in 2 boxes, hobby boxes. And the hot packs essentially were an entire pack with usually just inserts around that specific, let's say, Scoring Kings insert. So they were a little bit more rare, a little bit on the higher end with hobby. And I really want to get in more into behind the card and the rarity to it, the value that it can bring, and how often do these cards come up on the market. You can see them on eBay. You can filter and find out past sales. You can find out how these cards stack up. And that's what I suggest you all do. The disclaimer real quick. Whenever I'm giving a self-assessment grade, it's really just my grades. These are not guaranteed to cross over at major grading companies. What I do is I cross-reference as many cards as possible. I do my self-assessment. I go to AI. I double-check with Grok on Twitter. I cross-reference as much as I can, use many different tools as I can, arrive at a grade, and let the buyer know on eBay multiple ways that you can check crescentvale.com for the blog post, the YouTube videos on Crescent Vale. You can see as much of the card as you like. That's really what I want people to do, is kind of dig into the 1995-1996 year that the Bulls came back and won 72 wins and 10 losses. First season back with Jordan. If that's really something you're interested in. He won 6 chips, so maybe one of the 6 chips is not always the story, maybe not always there. Maybe it's the last season is your most favorite Jordan season, or the first couple seasons in the 80s. Some people like that level of rarity. Now, what I enjoy about these cards is a little bit harder to duplicate. And none of the cards I sell, I buy them on eBay, and I try to find cards that are, the paper cards you could almost reprint and duplicate a little easier. I'd honestly try to find cards that are harder to duplicate, because I want my buyer to always receive the most accurate, the most clean copy that's not been duplicated. I don't want any fakes. I want my cards to be as real as possible. Now, those early Jordans, they are easier to duplicate, and there is a lot of cards that get sent to grading companies. I saw a staggering amount of Jordans, Mickey Mantles, that are just fakes. So keeping the hobby honest and transparent, that's why we do these videos. So yeah, let's get into the grading of this card. It is one of the more sought out after hot pack cards. Scoring Kings, I think, has a couple of different, runs of the specific insert. So inserts are kind of, you have your base Fleer Ultra, and there would be kind of a set amount of your base cards. And these inserts, Scoring Kings, I bought, and I've even had recently, a Kobe Bryant Scoring Kings 2006-2007 Fleer Ultra. So I just find that Fleer Ultra, using these insert titles, is really fun to follow along and check out the years that they would use the title Scoring King and the different players that represented each of these inserts. So I'm just using the top letters as my anchor point, and I'm seeing it's about 3 millimeters. That's what we're looking for overall. I would say that it's safe to say that the anchor point, and I've used this on the last hot pack, the left to right as far as the hot pack logo and the Fleer Ultra, they both seem to have a consistent spacing between them and the edge of the card. And in this case, I'm seeing a little more than 3, probably 4 on those. And one could also kind of take a look at the centering of this, what is this here? Some kind of shield. That's a perfect word for it. One could say the shield is the anchor points, and moving from left to right off of the shield is how you would determine. So on the left, if we're using the shield as an anchor point, it's about 6. And then if we're using the shield on the right, it's also close to 6. Let's see here. We'll go to the top of the shield. How's that sound? On the right, if we use the top of the shield, I would say almost 5.5. Or no, that's 6. Yeah, that's 6. 6 there. And then over here, about 6.5 on the left side if we're using the, no, that could be 6 as well. So if we're using the shield, and I guess we could also use the lettering as an anchor point. Kind of more 6 going on 7 if we're using the letters as an anchor point. On this side, 7. So the shield anchor points and the lettered anchor points have a lot of consistency to them. I think I saw 3 on the top, and then on the bottom, let's use these letters as an anchor point. 3 on the bottom. So the centering to this card on the front is really good. It's kind of what we're looking for. I've used the NBA logo as a anchor point several times. It seems to be pretty accurate whenever I'm looking at cross-referenced cards to see how the centering looks on them. So the logo on here, about to the right, is close to 3 millimeters. And then from, you call the bottom, and the lettering also there is kind of consistent with the logo, so that really feels good. 3 right, 3 at the bottom. Now, where it becomes a little, oh no, we have, great. Sometimes it's hard to always find anchor points on the card. Last hot pack we did, the anchor points weren't as clearly defined. But you can kind of see here from the top is, again, 3 millimeters. And it's actually kind of a saving grace because there's some imperfections to this card we're going to get into, the corner specifically. You might already see it. But the fact that the centering has been so accurate feels good. I'm going to give it a 9.5 for centering. And this card got bid way up. And sometimes I got caught up in the bidding of it, and I could have done a better job at reviewing the card and looking at other comps. So that's on me. But the centering to it is one of the saving graces to this card. I gave it a 9.5, and we'll get into the edges next. I think the corners is where I'm going to have to drop it down to an 8, possibly 7.5, because I have a corner that is it's on the back. It's got clear wear. It's just not even have to zoom in. But right now we're looking at edges, and we're going to see how clearly defined the edges are. See if there's any chipping, any cracks, foil peel is what I think they call it on these cards. And, you know, the edges actually look pretty good. I think my corners are going to be where I have to mark it down the most. Oh, great. Okay, so when I say great, I just like being able to accurately grade a card. I don't want to mark it down. I just want people to understand that I'm being as transparent as possible. But yeah, this edge here is on the imperfection side. Now the question is how much do we mark this down? You can also see that corner there is on the imperfection side. But as far as the card overall, and that one edge down there being probably the worst, and this edge here too. So I think that's close to an 8. Whenever I see cards being cross-referenced, the edges on that is 8, could be even 7.5. I've seen 6s recently for these cards. It's not a 6. 7.5 to 8. I'll give it an 8 for edges, but clearly you can see them in the video, and I can't wait to see what Grok says about the edges. Now we'll look at the corners next. And on the front of the card, like this specific corner, it's not that bad. That's, 8.5 to 9 I give for that corner because I don't see clear white, but I also don't see clear perfection. On the surface, whenever we're looking at this, you can kind of see some whitening. So that's closer to an 8 to 8.5. Let's take a look at this corner here. Again, you can kind of see some whitening. So again, 8 to 8.5. This corner, I don't see much whitening there, so that's kind of a good sign. And I'm wondering if this is, what would you say, if there's a bit of some like surface imperfections, and I just want to see if that clearly comes off or if that is part of the card. So as I'm kind of You could say cleaning, trying to reduce any kind of... So yeah, that's part of the surface. We'll mark that down when we get to the surface. But now, I guess like the most heartbreaking part of the card is this corner down here. And it's heartbreaking to me because that's like a 7-5 corner. And, you know, we have been seeing some other stronger corners, so I'm leaning towards an 8 for corners overall. Possibly 7-5, so you can kind of see some wear on that corner there. So I think 7-5 is a little bit closer to accurate for the corners. And, you know, to be honest, that's kind of what I saw coming. So we have a 9.5 for centering, an 8 on edges, 7.5 on corners. So right now we're in between an 8 and an 8.5. And the surface will really determine if it's an 8 or an 8.5. And feel free to disagree or agree in the comments, and we'll always check with AI as well. But this surface, I would like to think that this is a pretty clean surface. We did see that spot right there. That's not kind of coming off due to dandruff. Kind of see a bit of a spot here on the left. And dandruff is card dandruff. I have not have human dandruff on the cards. I don't even know if that's the correct word. I guess whenever cards are being cut, they're probably pieces of cardboard instead of dandruff. We just want to talk about micro pieces of cardboard is probably the most proper term. But we see 2 spots on the front, and I'm going to mark down a 0.5 point for each spot that I'm seeing. Kind of see one there. So I would say 8.5 for the surface. And we were saying we were determining is it an 8 or an 8.5. And after overall, I'd say this is an 8.5. Which is interesting because our other Hot Pack Fleer Ultra Scoring Kings Jordan also came in at a 8.5. Well, thank you so much for watching these 2 Hot Pack Jordan cards. We're going to have plenty more cards coming your way soon. Continue to watch, continue to check back, and have a great day.